It's the Run for the Roses, the greatest 2 minutes in sports, and so much more than your regular sporting event. The Kentucky Derby is a celebration of Southern culture and a true icon of America. Just imagining being there is amazing. Sipping a mint julep with your best friends while wearing the most extravagant hat you can find, and coming together and joining fellow race fans to sing My Old Kentucky Home. Today, more than 150,000 spectators gather together annually on the first Saturday of May at Churchill Downs for this popular event. Since the first race took place in 1875, the Kentucky Derby has come a long way and has had some major changes, as well as legendary horse performances and record-setting races. Hopefully today you will understand how the most exciting 2 minutes in sports came to be what it is and why it's so popular. It all began in 1872 when Meriwether Lewis Clark was inspired from his travels in Europe and was determined to create a spectacular horse racing event in the United States. His inspiration came from the Epsom Derby in England and the Grand Prix de Paris Longchamps. With the help of his uncle, who gifted him the land to develop a racetrack, and by organizing a new group of local race fans called the Louisville Jockey Club, they raised funds to build a permanent racetrack in Louisville, Kentucky. On May 17, 1875, the racetrack opened its gates for the very first time, and according to KentuckyDerby.com, the first Kentucky Derby included a total of 15 three-year-old thoroughbred horses to race 1.5 miles in front of a cheering crowd of 10,000 spectators. Aristides was the first winner of the Kentucky Derby and had a winning race time of 2 minutes and 37 seconds. Since that very first race in 1875, many changes and milestones have taken place. In 1896, the distance of the Kentucky Derby was shortened from 1.5 miles to 1.25 miles. It was thought that the former distance was too long for the thoroughbreds and that it was too early in the spring. In 1904, red roses became the official flower of the Kentucky Derby, and it wasn't until 1925 that the Derby was nicknamed the Run for the Roses. Ever since, it has been tradition to place a large garland of roses over the winning horse. Also in 1925, the first radio broadcast of the Kentucky Derby takes place, and 6 million tune in to hear Flying Ebony win the race. History was made in 1970 when Diane Crump is the first female jockey to ride. Although it wasn't a win, it brought women to the forefront of horse racing. In the 99th running of the Kentucky Derby, the famous Secretariat wins with the fastest finishing time at 1 minute and 59 seconds, and that record still stands today. The latest winner of the Kentucky Derby was Country House in 2019, and Country House was announced the winner after Maximum Security was disqualified. And the way I understood why he was disqualified was they related it to track, where you have to stay in your lane, and he veered over into the other horse's lane. Besides all the changes and accomplishments that have come throughout the years of the Kentucky Derby, cost has also changed dramatically. General admission price for the first Kentucky Derby was 50 cents, and in 1996 it was increased to $30. Now, according to CourrierJournal.com, general admissions ticket price for the day of the Kentucky Derby would cost around $75. Anything past general admission can rack up to thousands depending on seating. The first floor box seating tickets can cost anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 and get more expensive the higher you go up. The Kentucky Derby has definitely embraced the changes of time, but it has also coincided with profound historical events and periods of time. According to History.com, between 1875 and 1902, 11 African American jockeys rode 15 out of the winning horses, and African American riders played a dominant role in the race's early years. By the 20th century, prejudices and jealousy of jockeys' success resulted in the majority of the African American riders to disappear from horse racing. Jimmy Wingfield was the last African American jockey to win the Derby in 1901 as well as in 1902. Despite the Great Depression, the Kentucky Derby still continued to take place, and people had a lot to celebrate. Even through some of the darkest times, people still got together to celebrate Southern culture and enjoy themselves. The 1932 race was internationally broadcasted and reached England's British Broadcasting Company. The winner, Burgoo King, was the first Kentucky Derby winner to be draped in a garland of red roses. And even during the hard times of war, people still gathered to carry through the tradition of the Kentucky Derby. In 1943, people gathered regardless of wartime travel restrictions of World War II, and only 65,000 fans gathered at Churchill Downs to enjoy the race because of no out-of-town tickets were being sold. Hopefully now you can see how this popular sporting event got to be where it is today and why people enjoy it so much. As J. Paul Redmond said, "I don't know how anything could be bigger than the Kentucky Derby, and if you hear of something, let me know." Over the years, the Kentucky Derby has become one of the most important and popular sporting events in history. It has also become so much more than just a sporting event. It is people coming together in celebration of Southern culture and great American traditions. I hope one day I get the opportunity to experience firsthand the Run for the Roses and the greatest 2 minutes in sports. I think the hardest decision will be what hat I should wear.